All right, welcome everybody to another episode of O365Eh. Habib Mankel. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about direct routing to Microsoft Teams. So, Michael, you want to lead us out?
Yeah, so I guess before we dive into direct routing, we should talk about kind of Microsoft as a whole becoming a global telco. So in 2015 and 2016, Microsoft had this grand ambition to become a global telco across the world. And, they came out with calling plans in the US, I think it was June 2016, and they've been, adding countries, it's been rolling. Now I think it's 9 countries, including Canada. But I believe that ambition has maybe gone a lot slower than originally planned. We just heard today, I believe, that Telstra in Australia will actually be providing calling plans for Office 365 down there. Instead of buying it from Microsoft, you'll actually be buying from the local telecom there. There's some notes on Twitter saying that, in Europe, Microsoft is actually kind of white labeling services from Colt Telecom. So you can see this kind of shift from Microsoft wanting to be the telco everywhere to partnering in certain regions, whatever makes sense for their customers. So this kind of brings us to direct routing, which was announced at Enterprise Connect last. And this is kind of another fundamental shift from Microsoft being a telco, where now as a customer you can bring your own telephony right into Teams. So this product has kind of gone through a couple name changes. At Ignite, it was kind of a bring your or BYOT, which was bring your own telephony or bring your own trunk. On the roadmap, it's listed as hybrid connection. For some time, there was thoughts that it was going to be called direct connection, and now the name of the product is direct routing. Kind of sounds similar to Azure and ExpressRoute, but hopefully there's not too much confusion around that.
So I'll lead it into what direct routing actually is. So really, the way to think about this is just direct routing being a capability of phone system in Office 365 to let customers connect their SIP trunks to Microsoft Teams. So you're an existing customer today. You might have a legacy PBX, for example. It's connected to some SIP trunks. So the idea being that you can leverage an SBC to connect those SIP trunks right into Teams. So that namely being a session border controller, for those of you that haven't heard the term SBC. So, the customers will have these trunks connected to their SBC, and that'll directly tie into Microsoft Teams and phone system. And that's a bit different than how it works today. So the announcement talked about 3 vendors that are going to be supported, namely AudioCodes, Ribbon, and ThinkTel Communications. So Microsoft has talked about as necessary, but as it stands today, we'll have these 3 vendors. So continue to look for other providers to be added as time goes, but we'll anxiously await further information on those to be released.
Yeah, and so to add on top of what Dino is mentioning, if you have an existing, let's say, I'm going to be talking sort of more about the existing CCE, if you already have that deployed in your environment, primarily based into your existing SBC through Ribbon, or audio codes. So what you can do is from a migration perspective to try and get from Skype for Business Online to Teams is that you can I guess the vendors will give you the ability to connect the direct routing from your SBC gateway directly into Teams as well. So at the same time, you'll have both in parallel communications between the between the SBC going to Skype for Business Online and to Teams itself. So the migration will be, definitely a lot easier because everything will be done on the SBC side, whereas you route the numbers to the appropriate path to take, whether it goes to existing Skype for Business Online, or then you can send it over to Microsoft Teams, right? So in addition, with that, you can keep any analog devices that you have on premises, or any other telephony interrupt that you have existing. So, if we talk about from an architecture perspective, most of the times, you're going to have these SBCs connected to your existing telephony infrastructure, because you're sort of getting in place to sort of replace that PBX to go for Skype for Business Online or to Microsoft Teams. Or you may be even in a place where you've already removed it and you're completely going CCE directly to Skype for Business Online. Well, now you can start doing your migration to Microsoft Teams, so your PRIs or your SIP trunks are directly connected into the gateway or SBC. And then the third company that Dina mentioned is ThinkTel, where they are already a SIP trunking provider. So essentially, what you're doing is, from an architecture perspective, is you're talking SIP from carrier to carrier. So there's nothing that needs to be on premises from an physical standpoint, from the customer's point of view. Everything is done from the ThinkTel perspective in the cloud. So all of the routing and the migration from Skype for Business Online to Teams is all done through the ThinkTel portal.
Yeah, just to add to that, Habib, I think it's really important to note that whatever voice configuration you have today with Skype for Business Online, or even in hybrid, this new option for direct routing, number one, it's for Teams only. And number two, you don't have to change or abandon that configuration. You can go side by side, and in fact, they're completely different. If you consume direct routing into Teams today, your existing Skype for Business Online configuration and all the dialing plans and everything would just stay the same. And it's important to note that voice path never crosses. They are completely separate today. Another important thing too is the vendors that are offering it today that Habib mentioned. My understanding is they're in beta. So if you are interested in consuming direct routing right into Teams, I think the thing to do would be to contact one of those vendors and get on the beta program.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for joining in, everybody, and hope to see you on the next one.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.